Okay, multiplying decimals. This is the paper that we went over in class today. You only did a couple of them, but I'm going to go ahead and do them for you so you have an example of what they should look like and be able to refer back to with your own paper. For number one, Colin's filling 4 5/10 ounce bottles with lavender bubble bath that he made for gifts. He was able to fill 7 5/10 bottles. How many ounces of bubble bath did he make? Okay, so we're going to start off with setting our problem up. And we're going to set it up just like we would multiplication. I have two numbers, and I always put the larger one on top. Notice I did not put my decimals in yet. I just lined them up like I would a regular multiplication problem. Then I can go back, put my decimals. The decimals happen to line up in this problem, but with multiplying and dividing, we get to break those rules that we've known for many years now on adding and subtracting. We do not have to line up our decimals. Now we just multiply, I was going to say subtract, multiply, but I'm going to ignore the decimals while I do that because I've been multiplying forever and I know how to multiply. I'm going to start 5 times 5 is 25, carry my 2. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 2 is 37. Scratch, scratch, and I'm going to put my placeholder of a 0 there. Then I'm going to go up to the 4. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry my 2. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 2 is 30. And then add them up. 5 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 0 is 7. 3 plus 0 is 3. And just bring down your 3. Now I need to worry about my decimal. My decimal placement is dependent upon where the decimals are in my equation, in each of those numbers, and how I can move them, how many digits I pass to be able to move them to the right. Basically, to get the 7 5/10 to look like a whole number. So I'm going to start here at the 7 5/10. If I want to make that look like 75 wholes, I've got to move the decimal one way to the right. So my move, I moved 1. Then I go to 4 5/10. If I want to make that look like whole 45, I'm going to move it, and it moved again to the right just once. Well, I need to know how many total moves. Well, I moved it 2 moves, or 2 places. That information there tells me how I'm going to place the decimal in my answer. If I move 2 places to the right to make my numbers appear like whole numbers, I use that with my answer and I move the same number of places, but I move to the left. Because remember, with 3,375, if that were a whole number, my decimal place would be right here. So now I'm going to move 2 places to the left. I'm going to do the opposite. 1, 2. Notice I'm not counting the numbers, the digits. I'm looping in between because my decimal does not sit on a number. It sits in between the place values. So my answer would be 33 75 hundredths. Okay, let's try number 2. Iona's favorite peaches are $2.50 per pound at the local farmer's market. She bought 3.5 pounds, so basically 3.5 pounds of the peaches, or 3 5/10. How much did she spend? Okay, again, let's take our numbers. $2.50 per pound. She bought 3.5 pounds. How much did she spend? Line them up like you normally would, regular multiplication. Ignore your decimals for just a minute. I have 250, and I want to multiply that by 35. Okay, but I do have decimals. I can't ignore them totally. Now put them in. $2.50 means my decimal would go there. 3.5 pounds, or 3 5/10, it would go there. Okay, multiply, just as you normally would. 0 times 5 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. Okay, then I need to get rid of those, and I'm going to put my placeholder here. Now go to your 3. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry your 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Add them up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 1 plus 7 is 8. So my answer right now is 8,750. Okay, so let's see about our placement of our decimals. Let's go up to the $2.50. If I want the $2.50 to look like 250 whole, I would have to move it 1, 2 places. So that moved 2 places. Go to my 3 and 5/10. If I want that to look like 35 whole, I'm going to move it, and I moved it once. Well, what I ended up with was 3 moves, or 3 places, which is going to help me with my placement in my answer. My answer right now looks like a whole number, 8,750, but it's not. I've got to put decimal points. So my decimal right now would be right here because it looks whole. I moved 3 places up top, so I'm going to move 3 places on the bottom, but I'm going to move the opposite. I'm going to move 3 places to the left. 1, 2, 3. Again, I'm not on the numbers, I'm between. And so what I get from the decimal placement, my answer, remember my question was how much did she spend? Well, she spent $8.75. It wouldn't be reasonable for her to spend $8,000 on peaches for 3.5 pounds. So my decimal placement is very important. Make sure that it makes sense. Okay, let's try number 3. Number three was one that had a whole lot of zeros, and we had a little bit of an issue with multiplication. Your decimal placement was great. It's your multiplication, and we've got to be able to multiply. Okay, so let's go back. Number 3, the items she wants to buy add up to $132.50 before sales tax. Sales tax is calculated by multiplying the total amount, which is $132.50, by 8 hundredths. What is the amount of sales tax? So we're going to start off with our numbers. I've got $132.50 before sales tax. The sales tax is 8 hundredths. And they tell me I have to multiply. They're giving me my information there of what to do. I need to know what's the amount of sales tax. So I'm going to start off again. Ignore the decimals. And line them up like you normally would. But do not ignore your zeros. Because of the movement with decimals, we may need those zeros there. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply. Now let's go back and put in our decimals. My 132.50, my decimal is right between the 2 and the 5. My 8 hundredths, my decimal is between the 2 zeros. Multiply like you normally would. Now with all these zeros, it can get very confusing, so you need to go step by step and line your numbers up. Don't have them all jumbled. So let's start with our 8. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 5 is 40. I'm going to carry my 4. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is 20. Carry my 2. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 2 is 26. And that's where some of you went wrong today, is you don't know 8 times 3 is 24. We got to get that right, guys. Okay, back to my 8. 8 times 1 plus 2 is 10. Okay, now I'm done with my 8. I'm going to get rid of all that so I do not accidentally re-multiply something. Okay, so now I need to put my placeholder, which some of us call lay an egg. Now go back and multiply again. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 times 1 is 0. So yes, all of those are zeros. But again, with the decimal placement, we may need them. But once I'm done, scratch it out. And then I've got to move over 2 places, or lay 2 eggs, some of you say, because my next number is in the hundreds place, so my answer needs to start in the hundreds place. And again, I have 0 times 0, 0, 0 times 5, 0, 0 times 2, 0, 0 times 3, 0, 0 times 1, 0. Notice how lined up my numbers are. If they're running sideways, if they're all on top of each other, you're not going to know which is which. Now just add them up. 0, 0, 0 is 0. 0, 0, 0 is 0. 0, 0, 0, 0. 6 plus 0 plus 0 is 6. 0 plus 0 plus 0, 0. 1 plus 0 plus 0, 1. And the last one, bring it down. So I've got this long number that means absolutely nothing, sales tax, it looks ridiculous. But we have to go and place our decimal. So I go back up into my problem, 132.50. If I want to make that look like a whole number, I'm going to move the decimal. It's going to move 1, 2. This one moved twice. Then I go down to the 0.08 or the 8 hundredths, move my decimal. 1, 2. That also moved 2, which means it moved a total of 4 places, which is going to instruct me on how I'm going to move in my answer. Because my answer right now is $106,000. Well, I don't think the sales tax is going to be $106,000 if I only spent $132,000. That doesn't really sound correct. So let's get our decimal place back in. I said I've moved 4 places, so right now the decimal's sitting here. I need to move it 4 places to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm looking at my numbers, and that makes a little bit more sense. I have a 10, decimal, 6. Well, if we're talking about money, that means that my sales tax would be $10.60. Okay, I want you to try 4 on your own if you have not already done so. You can pause the video, come back and check it with me when you're finished and see how you did. Okay, so number 4, you should have tried on your own. Again, we've got a problem with 20 and 7,500 gallons of gas. Average is 15 and 5/10 miles per gallon, meaning every 1 gallon it uses, it should go 15.5 miles. How many miles to go on a full tank? So again, write them down, leave the decimal alone for a minute. If I asked you to multiply 2,075 by 155 and multiply them, my numbers would line up. And then put your decimal in. Notice my decimals do not line up. That's okay. We get to break the rules here. But my numbers need to be in alignment, like I would normally multiply. I'm not going to line up my decimals and shift everything over and add zeros, because that completely changes my answer. I've got to make sure my numbers line up, then add the decimals so they don't get in your way and confuse you. Now all I do is go back and I actually multiply and get an answer. So here I'm going to start 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 7 is 35 plus 2 is 37. 5 times 0 is 0 plus 3 is 3. 5 times 2 is 10. Then I'm going to get rid of all of these, and I'm going to put my placeholder, because my answer is coming from the tens place. I need it to start in the tens place. 5 times 5 is 25, carry my 2. 5 times 7 is 35, carry my 2. Well, doesn't this sound familiar? 5 times 0 plus 3 is 3. It's the same thing that we just did, it's just shifted over because we're multiplying by the same number 5. So I'm going to end up with the 10375, it's just there's a 0 here because I shifted my numbers over. Okay, so that's going to look the same. I'm going to cross all that out, and then let me add 2 placeholders, because now I'm going to multiply from the hundreds place, so my answer needs to start in the hundreds place. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, go ahead and add them up. We have 5 plus 0 plus 0 is 5. 7 plus 5 plus 0 is 12. Carry your 1. 1 plus 3 plus 7 plus 5, 16. 1 plus 3 plus 7, 11. 1 plus 1 plus 0 plus 0 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, so I have this gigantic number. Let's go back and look at our decimals and move them. Go back up into, I've got 20 and 75 hundredths. I'm going to move my decimal. How many places? 1, 2. 15 and 5 tenths. Move your decimal 1 to get it out into to the right. Well, total I've moved 3 places, which tells me where I'm going to put my decimal in the answer. My decimal is sitting here. I'm going to move 3 places. 1, 2, 3. Answer, how many miles? 321 and some more. 321 and 625 thousandths miles. Really, we would probably just answer 321 miles. Okay, let's go down to 5. Have you try that one on your own and check it with me. Okay, we make $8.50 an hour rolling sushi. His paycheck shows he worked 20 and 8,800 hours over the past 2 weeks. How much did he make before taxes? Okay, so we're going to, again, set it up. Not worrying about the decimals so that we know where our numbers go. And I'm going to put the larger one on top just so it's easier to multiply so they line up. So leave the decimal alone. It's like 2,088 and then 850. Multiply. Okay, then go back and put your decimals in. Here and here. Again, it's a coincidence they line up. It's not because they have to. And then I'm going to just multiply. 0 times 8, 0, 0 times 8, 0, 0 times 0, 0, 0 times 2. All of those are zeros. Cross it out. Put your placeholder. 5 times 8 is 40. Carry my 4. 5 times 8 is 40 plus 4 is 44. 5 times 0 is 0 plus 4 is 4. 5 times 2 is 10. Cross out. Now I need 2 placeholders because I'm going to multiply from the hundreds place. 8 times 8 is 64. Carry my 6. 8 times 8 is 64 plus 6 is 70. Carry. 8 times 0 is 0 plus 7 is 7. 8 times 2 is 16. Again, notice how lined up my numbers are. I don't want them going running sideways. I don't want them all jumbled. Now I'm going to add them up. 0, 0, 0. Again, 0, 0, 0. 0 plus 4 is 8. 0 plus 4 plus 0 is 4. 0 plus 7 is 7. 1 plus 6 is 7. And bring down my 1. So again, I have this gigantic number. And let's move our decimals. If our decimals were moved 1, 2, here also 2, well, that gives me a total of 4 places. That tells me what I'm moving down here. 4 places, 1, 2, 3, 4. So how much did you make? Oh, before taxes is $177.48. Okay, last one. Pause the video, try it on your own, and then come back and check with me and let's see how you did. Okay, you should have done this one on your own. We are looking at renting a car to drive 233 and 3/10 kilometers from Paris to Brussels. He must figure out the distance in miles. To convert from kilometers to miles, he needs to multiply, look at that, they even give us it, multiply the total kilometers by 62 hundredths. How many miles will he drive? Okay, so I'm going to set it up as though I don't have a decimal. And then multiply it by 0.62. Then go back and look at the decimal. I need my decimal here between the last two threes and between the 0 and 6. Notice they do not line up, and that's okay. I'm more worried about where my numbers fall. Now we're just going to multiply, ignore the decimals. 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4. Cross out, put your placeholder. 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 3 is 18 plus 1 is 19, carry my 1. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 1 is 19, again, carry. 6 times 2 is 12 plus 1 is 13. Cross it out, all of that, and 2 placeholders. And then we've got 0 times 3 is 0, 0 times 3 is 0, and then we're going to continue with our zeros. But I want to do my zeros because I may need them. They may extend my number to the left, and I may need those zeros for a place to put the decimal. So you always just want to put them in there in case. And we're just going to add them up. This is 6, 14, carry my 1, 16, carry my 1, 14, carry my 1, 4, and 1. Now let's go back and look at our decimals. For 233 and 3/10, I'm going to move it once. For 62 hundredths, I'm going to move it twice. Well, that's a total of 3 places, which will tell me what I'm going to do here. Move it 3 places. 1, 2, 3. Miles would be 144 and 646 thousandth miles. So really roughly around 144, 145 miles would be our conversion.